DeMeco Ryans and CJ Stroud, how do they stack up against the other QB head coach duos in the playoff picture? Plus, the vibe police are out. The Texans return to the practice field tomorrow, and we got a lot of other news to react to. Let's go. Locker Room presented by Sleeper.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the Locker Room on YouTube.
Do it live.
You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey. Locker Room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk. Yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize every angle's what we really do. We the source. We the pulse of the city too. Landlocked. Got the game.
Playoffs are approaching. What a time to be alive. It is the Locker Room, number one source for Texans digital content. I am Landry Locker. Happy to be here with you. Texans return to the practice field mañana. I'll be on the scene. Before that, going to have some breakfast with John McClain. John McClain's actually going to join us, myself and Cody Stoots, SNL, at Spanky's 2 Fridays from now. But we'll be there this Friday as well. We look forward to seeing you. The best in the game, best happy hour in the game, best bar food in the game. Awesome pizza, too. Homemade dough, homemade sauce. Spanky's is our place. It is our home. And we got a few Fridays this month to hang out with you there. And we look forward to seeing you there. A lot of people have already said that they're going to be there. I was thinking about this, and shout out to Sleeper for sponsoring the video. If you haven't played Sleeper, try Sleeper. $5. $5. Use the promo code LOCKER. It's very simple. You use it as your scoring app because it is better than the one with 4 letters. I can assure you of that. And you just pick 2 or more players, and you say more than or less than in their statistics. $5. Sprinkle it. Enjoy it. We're going to try this week because my picks have sucked, and he's actually been kicking some ass. I never thought my pops would be playing DFS, but here we are. And Sleeper is the best. So go ahead and take advantage of that. Get that Sleeper app. I promise you will not regret it. $5, $10, whatever. Double it. Use the promo code LOCKER, and you get a 100% match up to $100. They got you covered. It'll make the games more fun. I can assure you of that. So shout out to Sleeper. I get this a lot from guys who watch the stream, and they watch it at different times. Some of you are night owls. Some of you get up in the morning and you watch the stream because it's evergreen content. We're not. This is a daily show. So the news cycle is 24 hours. So myself and Cody on our stream, 24-hour news cycle, 24-hour news cycle. So you have from 10:30 to 10:30 to see what I said about yesterday, and then if you want to see, and it can continue to go that way. But I get a lot from the ladies or the husbands, depending on who is and isn't the listener, that the horn sometimes wakes them up if they're sitting in bed listening to it, like the horn when we play it during the intro. Like it wakes them up. They're like, dude, my wife's already tolerating me enough. I'm sitting here listening to this, and now you playing this horn, and now she's pissed at me. What can you stop with the damn horn, Landry? Sometimes I play the horn, sometimes I don't. Just kind of depends how I'm vibing. I'm not gonna lie, I'm vibing today. Now it's not post Buffalo vibe. It's a much different vibe. It's a much different vibe in a liquid form.
High-grade marijuana called Kush on the streets.
But I'll tell you how much I'm vibing. And we'll get to the quarterback comparisons because I know how much people like to talk about quarterbacks and coaches. We'll also talk about the 5-0 is on the loose. And it's amusing to see the 5-0, the Vive 5-0 on the loose out here in H-Town. But I was watching this USC game, and I already watched the first half, and I got USC minus 2.5. I'll just pull it back. I got USC minus 2.5. That's my personal decision, but that's what I went with. And they were really messing around in the first half. Quarterback threw like an incompletion. They had to settle for a field goal. And on YouTube TV, it's a cool feature, But if you're on that
high-grade marijuana called Kush on the streets,
and you're not really paying much attention, then it can kind of get you, because when you turn off your TV, you can pick up where you were live. So that's what I did. I came in the office, I turned on my TV in the office, and I'm watching it, and I'm not even thinking about this. I'm not even thinking about looking at the time. I'm just looking at the score, and the quarterback throws a pass, and the guy deflects it again. And I'm like, damn, they did this play earlier. How in the hell is this guy, that's the same damn play and the same damn throw he hadn't learned. And then I realized it was paused in here. And I was watching the same thing that I had watched 30 minutes before. I'm just being honest. That's what happened. On the chat, Michael, shout out to you, my friend.
Swarm.
For us overseas, it's lunchtime. Go Texans. Shout out to the overseas folks. We're worldwide around here. Lunchtime. What's for lunch? Like what's the overseas lunch? What's the vibe? I'm legitimately curious about this. Very much curious about this. But I want to get into the quarterback and I want to get into the head coach duo of CJ Stroud and DeMeco Ryans versus other duos in the playoffs, in the playoff picture currently in the AFC. So we'll add Baltimore in this mix, and the teams that are on the inside, we'll focus on them. And here's a little visual for you people, and I do mean you people. Here's what the playoff bracket currently looks like. And quite frankly, outside of the Chargers dropping down to 7 because they're not trying to win, and Buffalo going up to 6, this looks about right. Like this looks about right, and this looks like it would actually be a decent layout for the Texans. Now, this is under the assumption that Pittsburgh could beat Baltimore, which would be an excellent gift for the Texans, because I think most people, regardless of what you've seen from Baltimore, you would rather face Pittsburgh than Baltimore. Does that mean that I'm saying that you should be just fearful of the Baltimore Ravens? No, I'm not saying that. I don't know if Lamar Jackson's even going to be able to play, but it's obvious that they're able to flip the switch. It's obvious that when you rough them up, they weren't healthy. And I think most teams would rather face the ghost of Aaron Rodgers and that Pittsburgh Steelers team as opposed to the Baltimore Ravens. I think that goes without saying, but that's kind of the visual there. And I think that would be a good break for the Texans right there. Cause I think you can go to Denver and win. I think you can go to any of these places and win. And in this scenario, there's no possibility where you have to go to Buffalo. There's no possibility where you have to go to Los Angeles and play the Chargers, which probably wouldn't be that big of a deal anyways. So that's a good situation. Now the question is, do you have enough at the quarterback and the head coach position to be able to get that done? And that's what I want to look at. I want to do this a number of ways. I want to evaluate the DeMeco and CJ situation against the other QB head coach duos. I want to do it in a number of ways. I want to do it just by itself, head coach and QB. And then I want to factor in the surroundings, which is where the defense comes into play, where the game would likely take place, other elements like that. I want to factor that in. And what's the worst that could go wrong? Quarterbacks and coaches don't generate emotion. They don't embrace debate, spark debate, do they? Maybe they do. Maybe they do. Michael says he's eating. I can't even pronounce this, my friend. I don't even know what this is. If I can't even pronounce your lunch, then it must be a good lunch. I'm gonna type this in. Lechon Kohali? What is that? Looks pretty good. Beans and everything like that. Pretty stacked. Get the images of this. I'll pull it up. Well, this is what we're working with here. Looks good. Like some jerk chicken type vibe. Okay. I see you. Kind of hungry now. So there you go. I've never had that. Does that make me like some sort of like uncultured redneck? How many people in the chat have actually eaten that before? I've never eaten that. St. Louis Rebel 2844 on the chat says Texans winning 3 road games in the playoffs to get to the Super Bowl is extremely hard task. I don't think they would necessarily have to do that. Unless you think that there aren't going to be any upsets, I don't think they would have to do that. And I also, like, as much as you say that, like, do you think that they can't go to Denver and win? Do you think that they can't go to New England and win? Those are the teams above you. So, like, the teams above you, Jacksonville, yeah, it's tough, but it's not like going to Arrowhead. It's not like going to Buffalo. You don't have to go through that path. So, yeah, it would be tough. I would be surprised if chalk holds up and that's the case. I could see you eventually getting to host a playoff game if that happens. But let's get into the comps here in the locker room. Very laid back. Fried pork belly. Okay. That's what we're doing. Okay. Little Filipino food. But let's go Ryan's. Let's start in Denver. Let's start with the 1 seed right now. DeMeco and CJ Stroud versus Peyton and Nix. Now, I don't even know if we have to factor in the defenses because both defenses are really good. This is the number 1 and the number 2 defense by far when it comes to the Texans and what they have to offer and the Broncos and what they have to offer. Now, lifetime record as head coaches between DeMeco Ryans and Sean Payton, it's 1-1. Or it's actually, yeah, it's 1-1. And there are asterisks on both wins. The Texans win came against Russell Wilson. It was the game, if you remember, when Jimmy Ward intercepted the pass in the end zone at the end to solidify the dub. So it wasn't with Bo Nix. It was in year 1 for DeMeco Ryans and Sean Payton in 2023. And Russell Wilson was the quarterback. And we all know how Sean Payton feels about Russell Wilson. And we all know that Russell Wilson kind of sucks. So you can kind of throw that one out. The one this year where Sean Payton won, CJ Stroud got hurt. And this wasn't Davis Mills being able to prepare for a week. This was Davis Mills getting thrown to the Wolves. And not only getting thrown to the Wolves, getting thrown to the Wolves in the form of one of the best defenses in the NFL. So you can really just throw the 1-1, DeMeco versus Sean Payton. You can throw that out. The other factor is they've never met in Denver. And if they meet in the playoffs, it'll be in Denver, which is a factor for sure. It's obviously a much tougher place to play. And the other element of this is DeMeco Ryans does not have the playoff experience that Sean Payton has. But on the surface, they're really essentially on the same level as coaches. I would give Sean Payton a nod this year on the coaching job that he's done. I actually am shocked that Denver has the 1 seed. I think them being well coached has a lot to do with it. And I think they have to overcome the quarterback. So I would give the Texans the edge at quarterback. I don't think anyone in their right mind is going to say that Bo Nix is better than CJ Stroud. So I would give the nod at coach to Sean Payton. And this has to do with what he's done this year and his body of work and his experience. But I would give the quarterback nod to CJ Stroud because I just think he's better. I think if you switch places and you put Bo Nix here and you put CJ Stroud there, I think it's a scary situation if Sean Payton has CJ Stroud to work with. There might be a gamer element, though, to Bo Nix where he just finds ways to win ugly. Kind of like the Jalen Hurts factor that we see where sometimes he looks terrible, but he's able to flip the switch. We haven't seen him flip the switch at that level yet, but I think this is kind of a wash. I would give the nod to Peyton as the coach. Quarterback, I'd give it to CJ Stroud. So we'll just call this one we'll call this one a tie. But that tie might be broken because if this plays out, it would be in Denver, and they have a really good defense too. So the Texans have a good defense. The Broncos have a good defense. Really nothing to judge based on the head-to-heads. So I would call that one a tie. Next one is the current 2 seed right now, the New England Patriots, who have a crappy schedule, but I don't think that the crappy schedule should minimize the job that Mike Vrabel has done in turning things around there. And I don't think it should minimize the way and the level to which Drake May is playing. Drake May's offensive line has gotten dinged up badly. They lost their starting left tackle. They've had guys in and out of the lineup. They've had receivers banged up. They've had running backs banged up. And they've been able to find ways to win, albeit with a crappy schedule. But they're a very good team. And Drake May is playing very good football right now. In fact, Drake May is playing better than CJ Stroud right now. Is he better than CJ Stroud? He's not as tested. We haven't seen him in the playoffs, but Drake May right now is playing much better football than CJ Stroud. Now, the surroundings are always what comes up when you talk about CJ Stroud. And yes, Drake May has Josh McDaniels, and Drake May has a good foundation. I don't think he has that good of weapons. I mean, he has Stephon Diggs and Travion Henderson's back. He's playing well. Stevenson. But outside of that, Drake May's just playing MVP caliber football. So you got to give the edge right now at quarterback. You got to give it to New England with how he's playing right now. And I don't think, CJ Stroud's had an okay year. It hasn't been an awesome year. But Drake May is definitely playing better football. That's not hard to say. Then you look at the coaches. Mike Vrabel's a better coach than DeMeco Ryans. Mike Vrabel right now is a better coach than DeMeco Ryans. He's done some of the most uncanny coaching jobs that we've witnessed in this division through the localized lenses. It's a disaster that Tennessee, luckily for Texans fans, that they ran him off and pissed him off the way they did. But Mike Vrabel had a improbable run to an AFC championship game when he knocked off the Baltimore Ravens when Lamar was MVP. And he also somehow got the 1 seed one year when they had no business, and they ended up getting knocked off in the first round, but nobody thought that they were good enough to be the 1 seed. It was kind of a Denver-ish vibe, except they were doing it with Ryan F. and Tannehill. So Mike Vrabel's a better coach. So on the surface, you look at this and you say, okay, head coach, QB duo, I got to give that one to New England. We have a tie with Denver, and I got to give that one to New England. But then you look at the surroundings. And yes, this game might happen in New England, but the Texans defense can wreck all of this. And you can kind of you tie the Texans defense to DeMeco Ryans, because DeMeco Ryans is the mastermind, and DeMeco Ryans is the straw that stirs the drink of the most praised unit in all of football right now. And that's the Texans defense. So as much as you could say, yeah, I would give it to Vrabel and May, when you factor in everything else and the factors, Foxborough is not enough to cancel out the Texans' superpower in the defense. So yeah, this is the case, but they're going to have to coach their ass off, and Drake May is going to have to play his ass off, and it's going to have to be everything. I don't think CJ Stroud against the Patriots has to play his ass off for them to win. So he might have to do less in that type of situation. So you got to give it to the Pats, but the factors and where the game would be, that's strongly on the side of the Texans. USC's not going to cover this, are they? They ain't going to cover this, are they? We'll get to some more in a sec. On the chat, Just Laro says, who didn't count out the Texans? Who didn't count the Texans out 8 weeks ago? Look, when they started out 0-3, we made it very clear they got to get to 5-5. We never said the season's over. We said they got to get to 5-5. But I'm sure a lot of people did. I'm sure a lot of people counted the Texans out. 5-5 was what they needed to get to when they got there. But I'm sure a lot of people did. People talking about Stephon Diggs. I don't have a lot of thoughts about Stephon Diggs. I said last year when it came to Stephon Diggs, and Army brought it up. I said last year, it's just always weird stuff with him. Whether it's true or not, there's just always like these weird ass internet stories about him, and I just thought it was a weird vibe. That was my basis. I also thought he was a little bit old, and I thought that maybe a younger influence would have paid off. But I don't know what he did or didn't do, but there's just always weird stories. Some of them are just like, whoa, that's insane. But yeah, does anyone have an issue in the chat? And be sure to subscribe, like, ride along. Join us at Spanky's this Friday. Sign up for Sleeper. Seriously. Open the Sleeper app, put $10 in, use the promo code Locker, and tail the picks. But does anyone have an issue with Mike Vrabel and Drake May as a QB HC duo ahead of CJ and DeMeco right now? Not factoring in the defense, because if you factor in the defense, I think the Texans beat the Patriots. And Drake May has to be a superhero, and they need every bit of whatever Mike Vrabel has to offer. But just as far as the head coach QB duo, that's very easy to say. Very easy to say. Now we go to the Jags, the Jacksonville Jaguars. This one's interesting. DeMeco Ryans and CJ Stroud versus Liam Cohn and Trevor Lawrence. Now, the history of the Jags with Trevor Lawrence, it's the ultimate roller coaster, and a lot of times it includes wetting the bed at the worst times, to the point where some people are like, I wouldn't be surprised if the Jags lose to the Titans this Sunday. I would be. And that's because we haven't seen him do it with Liam Cohen, and he's another guy who could easily be in the discussion for Coach of the Year. He's done a great job. And their front office deserves a lot of credit because they traded up for Travis Hunter. It didn't go according to plan. He ended up getting hurt. Brian Thomas Jr., I know a lot of fantasy owners kind of throw up in their mouth whenever you mention that name. I was one of them. But Brian Thomas Jr. was one of the biggest flops of the season. So they were having issues at wide receiver. They trade for Jacoby Myers, and it seems like that's been a move that has kind of leveled things out. They've also been playing some really, really good defense. I think they have the best run defense in the league. Josh Hines Allen, Travon Walker, they're playing good. Armstead's doing his thing. Jacksonville's good this year. And Liam Cohn's a big reason why. That was a hell of a hire by them. Got a new GM, too. They got rid of Trent Baalke. So he's good. He's a good coach. Trevor Lawrence is playing well. Seems like we say that a lot. But he's playing pretty good. But there's still the Trevor Lawrence factor. I think it's safe to say having a better season than CJ Stroud? Yes. But is he better than CJ Stroud? I don't think too many people would say that. I don't think too many people would say that Trevor Lawrence is better than CJ Stroud. And I think it's a wash when it comes to Cohen and DeMeco. DeMeco is also more battle tested when it comes to these situations. So I would give the nod to the Texans with acknowledgement that the game would be in Jacksonville, which I don't think means much because I don't think that's like some sort of crazy home field advantage. And the Texans are familiar with going there and having success. And I also think both defenses are good. So that can be kind of a wash. The Texans defense is better, but I will also acknowledge that we haven't seen how Cohen and Lawrence handle stuff down the stretch and how they handle the playoffs. They could just be mofos in the playoffs. They could be choke artists. So there is the mystery element, but in the spirit of breaking down this matchup, this QB-HC duo matchup, I'll give it to the Texans because we've seen DeMeco Ryans and CJ Stroud win playoff games. So we'll give the Texans that one. So Vrabel and Drake May, better. Sean Payton and Bo Nix, tie, better than the Jags. So there you go, 1-1-1. I know people hate ties. NFL fans hate ties. But we have a tie with this. Now we go to an interesting one. But it's DeMeco Ryans and Stroud versus McDermott and Allen. I'll preface this by saying I think Sean McDermott is not a great coach. I think he's inherited a hell of a ball club. I think he's sometimes the moment's too big for him, but he's very battle tested, and the resume on paper is hard to argue. And quite frankly, I thought he was dead 2 years ago, and he's still alive, and they're still in the mix. So I think DeMeco's a better-ish coach than McDermott, but Josh Allen's way better than CJ Stroud. Now, some would say DeMeco Ryans has had his way with Josh Allen, so maybe we should be saying, factoring in that DeMeco Ryans has had his way with Josh Allen. I think that's fair. I think that's fair, but I would still give the nod to the better quarterback, the more battle-tested quarterback. And the Texans haven't had to do it against Josh Allen in the playoffs. I bet Buffalo right now has to be just flat out thrilled that they don't have to go to Kansas City. That's been their obstacle for this entire era of Josh Allen and McDermott. It's been, we have to go to Arrowhead and we have to go against one of the best dynasties in the history of the AFC, and they keep coming up short. But I would still give the nod to Josh Allen and McDermott in the playoffs. Some might disagree with that. Good news is it would be in Houston if the Texans win. If the Texans win, then any possible matchup with Buffalo would be in Houston. So now the record in the head-to-heads is 1-2-1. 1-2-1. You beat Jacksonville. You lost. These are my opinions. I'm sure you got your own. I would like to just tell me what you think the record is of the duos. But I got Texans, DeMeco and CJ win over Jacksonville. They lose to Buffalo and New England, and they tie Denver. This is an easy one. This is against Mike Tomlin and the ghost of Aaron Rodgers. This is silly. So we'll go 2-2-1 here. Mike Tomlin kind of on a treadmill. I don't know. Like, is he known as a clutch coach in the playoffs? Is he known as a choker in the playoffs? I don't even know how you classify what Mike Tomlin is in the playoffs. Aaron Rodgers in the playoffs comes up short. When he was in his prime, when he was the best player in the world in the first round, he was coming up short. Some of the biggest upsets in the divisional round have been with Aaron Rodgers under center, and that was before his beard was gray. So this is an easy one. This makes it 2-2-1 for the Texans heading into the final two matchups of the QB-HC duo. We'll get to those in a sec. We're going to be talking about some brothers. But before that, I want to talk about my grass. And I'm not talking about the grass that a lot of you are thinking about. I'm talking about my turf in my backyard, Texans turf. They don't just slop carpet on the ground and go about their way and rip you off. A lot of these turf companies do. And it's a discouraging process to shop for turf. But I did it. And fortunately for me, I was patient, and finally I came across Texans turf. Whether you want a putting green, playing surface, whatever, eliminate the stress of dealing with backyards, eliminate the insects, eliminate the mud so the family can have some fun, the house can look better, and the neighbors can be jealous, unless they join in, which many have. Trust me, Dan is the man. He's not going to rip you off, whether it's just a common job, whether it's a big job downtown. I was a customer before we started the partnership on the streams and back in the radio days. And everyone that has followed suit, they've been very, very happy with it. TexansTurf.com. Dan is the man. So we get back to the quarterback rankings. Be sure to like the video and be sure to subscribe to SNL as well as the Texans Collective. So now we go to Los Angeles, the team that the Texans just faced. And you have DeMeco Ryans and CJ Stroud versus Jim Harbaugh and Justin Herbert. I think Jim Harbaugh has done an amazing job. I don't know how they've won as many games as they have. I think Justin Herbert's done a good job making do. Justin Herbert has had a better season than CJ Stroud. He's done a much better job of dealing with the surroundings that he's dealt. I don't think the stats haven't been awesome. There's more interceptions, but I think Herbert has obviously had, maybe not as obvious, but he's had a better regular season. Now, this is the problem, though, and this is the factor. The better regular season last year belonged to Justin Herbert as well, but he got his ass kicked in the playoffs, in large part because of DeMeco Ryans. DeMeco Ryans and the Texans against the Chargers and this QB-HC duo, 2-0. Once in the playoffs, once in a game where the Chargers still had a crack at the number 1 seed. This is an easy one. This one goes to DeMeco, CJ, easy one. This is an easy one, and some people may disagree with it, but I think this one goes to them. Zero doubt. They got an interesting situation in that SC game. So before we get to the other one, so you beat the Steelers, that's 1-0. You tied the Broncos, that's 1-0-1. You beat the Chargers, that's 2-0-1. You beat the Jags, that's 3-0-1. And then you lost to Buffalo and you lost to them. So that's 3-2-1 with the HCQB duos. Now, this is where it gets interesting. And this is where you just wonder if it's out with the old, in with the new. And maybe this would be a good way for the Texans to start the playoffs. But you have CJ and DeMeco versus John Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson. How the hell is Baltimore still in the mix? Crappy division and just a lot of luck. Aaron Rodgers just complete brain fart. And now here you are with really a likelihood, like your most likely opponent is the team that has quite frankly owned you when Lamar Jackson is under center. Now, does that guy still exist? That's a question to ask. And I think that needs to be factored in. Like Lifetime Achievement Award, Lamar Jackson, multiple MVPs, has completely owned the Texans. But does that guy exist? And maybe he still exists, but he's not going to exist this year. The guy's banged up. They were not winning games before he got banged up either because their defense was struggling. They're more healthy than when you faced them, but this is not the Baltimore Ravens team that ended your season 2 years ago. This isn't the Baltimore Ravens team that beat your ass on Christmas last year as Hannah McNair and Cal McNair came out waving to Beyonce. This is not them. But they have owned you. So that needs to be taken into account. And again, we're just focusing on the head coach and the QB. This game would be in Baltimore. It would be a little bit cold. And Lamar Jackson under this exercise would be on the field. I would love to give this to the Texans. But the history, the pedigree, and the fact that really like CJ's had a good season, he hasn't had a great season. I got to give this one to Harbaugh and Lamar. So that's the third L. So in this exercise, the Texans go 3-3-1 when it comes to head coach and quarterback. 3-3-1. That's good enough. And you know why that's good enough? Because we're not even factoring in the superpower. The superpower is the defense. Most of these teams, they don't possess superpowers. Denver might with their defense, but outside of that, there's no other superpowers of these teams. Pittsburgh has no superpower. The Chargers, they have no superpower. The Jags have no superpower. The Bills, they do have a superpower. It is the quarterback. But his surroundings are not awesome. It's the quarterback. Patriots, really good coach and quarterback, shaky roster, lack of experience, and maybe a new distraction. So they don't have that. Denver's defense might be a superpower, but the Texans possess a superpower, and you're right there in the middle of the pack when it comes to coach and head coach tools. And there's also a lot of uncertainty there. That's the thing. CJ Stroud and DeMeco Ryans aren't judged by the regular season. That's not how they're judged. They're not judged by the regular season. When they came into this season, it was about flipping the switch. It was about getting to the next step, getting to the AFC Championship game. So 3-3-1, I don't think is bad. I don't think everyone's going to agree, but 3-3-1 is fine with this playoff field and with this superpower, the defense. But the question is that can the Texans take the next step? And I don't want to say no, but I'm not like confidently going to say yes. Maybe that's sitting on the fence, but I don't look at this. The vibes that I have right now, and it's kind of hard for me because I'm when you start celebrating a season and then you start celebrating that season by throwing it in the same company as 2018 Bill O'Brien, maybe it's just because I covered it closely and I was in the mix and I was always somewhat of a skeptic, but it's just, it's kind of a trigger for me to kind of roll my eyes. And I see articles like this, and I love Sam Warren. I think he's one of the most underrated beat writers going. His content is incredible. Follow Sam Warren at @SamWarren_3. But you read this quote down here. It says, technically, we weren't supposed to be here. What does that mean? Technically, we weren't supposed to be here. Maybe you can read it and figure it out. Watch this. But I got to confess, I hate the 0-3 to 11-5 celebration. I don't like it. I lived it. I lived it. And I remember where it was like, well, we started out and these guys didn't quit. This is where you expected the Texans to be. I don't know too many people who didn't expect the Texans to be in this situation. They're where they should be. Technically, we weren't supposed to be here. You look up the definition and it's kind of a semantic thing. But when I hear adversity, I usually think about bad luck or situations that you could not control. They lost 3 ball games straight up to pretty decent teams. Tampa Bay looks like shit right now, but at the time they were a pretty decent team. It's not like they lost half their roster and they had to overcome that. Like, you lost 3 ball games. It equaled out. Water found its level when it comes to the Texans, and they have this opportunity. And we can see how DeMeco and CJ Stroud, who, by the way, I should have mentioned this. This is another advantage they have. as a duo, they are the second most battle-tested AFC combo. Could be third if Baltimore gets in. But as far as being a duo, a head coach and a QB and going to battle together this time of the year, they are the second most battle-tested. You have McDermott and Allen, and then you have DeMeco and CJ. So they're right there when it comes to the battle-tested, and that's a good thing for them. But when we start glorifying the whole company of B.O.B., it just kind of triggers me. It kind of just, I roll my eyes at it. And I also kind of roll my eyes at the vibe police. I think the vibe police are kind of funny. I only saw it, but there's like a sense of, hey, you gotta keep the momentum going. This could be special. Yesterday in the chat, there's a dude named Johnny. He's a cool dude, but he sent like 4 messages. So I saw the end, and it's basically like, this could be special. You gotta have the vibes up and all that, buddy. I'm not your vibe guy. Like I'm not. I don't have like a normal vibe guy. I'll give you the vibe of how I feel. I'm always excited to talk ball, but I'm not here to like cheer you up. I'm not here to cheer you up. Furthermore, I've lived this situation where the Texans have been at this level, where they've been a double-digit win team, where they've been kind of one of the teams like in the middle to the back of the playoffs. So I want to see whether they can take the next step or not. And there's a balance right now that they have that is kind of similar to last year. So like I don't know what vibe you're supposed to have, but as soon as we start talking about Bill O'Brien seasons and then we start talking about vibes, it's not the greatest. I think the best vibes that the Texans have had, I think there have been 2 seasons where you've kind of had high vibes for the Texans, where you're like, okay, I unequivocally feel, right or wrong, I unequivocally feel that it's inevitable that this team competes near the top. There's been 2 times for me in the Bill O'Brien era. It's USC TCU games getting crazy. Get his ass. There you go. All right. So vibe 1 was 2017 when Deshaun Watson took over and he was just on fire. Even when they had defeats, there were glorious defeats, and Deshaun Watson was doing his thing. He ended up tearing his ACL, but you felt at that moment, you felt like it was just inevitable that eventually, whether it was the next year when he came back, whether it was the year after that, whatever, you felt that this team was gonna compete at the top. Sports are fluid. Sometimes it doesn't play out like that. Then there was after the 2023 season. After the 2023 season, when DeMeco did his thing and CJ did his thing, you kind of felt that way about them. You felt that way about that squad. And then we saw what we saw. We went from thinking Bobby Slowick, okay, is he going to be a head coaching candidate, to, damn, should they fire Bobby Slowick mid-season? That's life coming at you fast right there. That's life coming at you real fast. Tackle. There you go. All right. So we're getting OT in this TCU USC. Let's go. Staying alive. You're all watching me like, oh, staying alive. There we go. But those were the 2 times that I felt it. I don't know, like, looking at this team, I think the field's laid out nicely for them. I think the defense is as good as it's going to be. This is an all-time Texans defense, and there's been a lot of good ones. But do I have the same feeling that I did 2017 Watson and 2023 post year 1 DeMeco and CJ? No. I don't. I don't. Do I feel like they're inevitably going to lose? No. But I don't have that vibe. I think close works two ways. I think close works two ways. And I understand the emphasis on, we're close when they were losing, but you're also close when you're winning. And I think it works both ways. Yeah, you could have won the first 3. You also could have lost, I don't know, 6 of the last 8. Some teams just find ways to win. And maybe that's what's going on here. Maybe it's just a little bit of apathy. Maybe it's just from the past experiences, but I'm not just feeling 100% like the Texans are going to take the next step. I think it can happen. I think it's going to be an interesting layout, but my confidence in this squad, it's similar. Last year, you were cooked heading into the playoffs. You were cooked. And I don't fault the Texans for losing in Kansas City against the Chiefs. But even before that, we never really saw like peak Texans. But when Diggs went down and when Tank Dell went down and you had no Nickelback, not the band, but no Jalen Petrie or Jimmy Ward, you were cooked. That was adversity. That was non-self-inflicted adversity that they went through with the injuries last year in the playoffs. But this year you got a better field. Hopefully you don't have to go to Baltimore, and you got an unbelievable defense. So it should be fun. It should be fun. You already thought this was going to be a really, really good Texans defense, and it wasn't, but it was. It was better than you'd expected. And that's where you're at. We got a little OT in this ball game. How about that? We need USC. Join the fun.
High-grade marijuana called Kush on the streets.
Come on, SC. Fight on. I hate saying that too. Bowl games are tough though. But a late night sprinkle on USC. Where are we at? Yeah, -1.5. So there we go. See if they can get this done. Might be tough. OT. Michael on Z Chat.
Swarm.
He says, let's celebrate after the season, focus on this week, and ride along with the Texans. Yeah, celebrate after the season. That's cool. And you look back on it. Now, if the Texans, like if they're one and done, I don't know how much they're going to celebrate, because they proactively really tried to take that next step. Good news is you got a team that drafts well. They drafted really well last year, and they do a good job with bargain free agents. They suck when they actually invest money in guys, whether it's trades or whatever, but bargains, like it's almost like you want them to have less cap space. Like they're almost like the person that, like, if you give them $100, they're going to recklessly shop. But if you give them 20, then they're going to try to find all the smart buys, and they're going to figure some stuff out. You give them 100, it's let's trade for Christian Kirk. Let's get Laken Tomlinson. Let's trade for CJ Gardner-Johnson. Cam Robinson, here's $12 million. That's their $100 at the store. Give him $20. Ed Ingram. Okay. Minnesota doesn't want him. We'll take him. Okay. That's a good buy. Let me see. Oh, Tommy Togiai last year. Okay. We'll take that. Jake Andrews, we'll bring him in. Trent Brown, league minimum. We'll take that. EJ Speed. Okay. Solid backup linebacker money. It's almost like the less money they have, the better. But I agree with you on the let's celebrate. There's nothing to really celebrate right now. You're not the 1 seed. Haven't even won the division. Like, you're celebrating overcoming 0-3. I'm just not in on it. Just not in on it. Maybe that makes me a vibe killer. Maybe. Evan says, might make a difference. We're healthy this run. Way healthier, man. Way healthier and in a way more friendly field. No doubt. And sometimes you just get fortunate when it comes to the way that stuff is laid out. And maybe that's going to be the situation for them. But yes, they are definitely healthier. There is zero doubt about that. But yeah, that's just kind of where they're at. Yasir Malik says, Landry, how does your wife allow you to do radio, SNL, and the locker room? My wife would kill me. Does it make money? Like, what do you mean? The radio, not really, but yeah, because it's my job. It's not like I'm like clocking in 9 to 5. No, it's a gig. It helps pay the mortgage. That's why. It's kind of a good vibe. But as far as 10:30 stream, she could definitely put her foot down if she wanted to on that. But maybe not at this point, but I don't think she would want to. But she's in there watching Love Island, and daughter's asleep right there. And I just walked down the hall to the studio. So that's where it goes. There you go. Team player says we better have gotten here. Trey says don't celebrate meeting expectations, celebrate total victory. Super Bowl, even the AFC Championship game. That'd be cool. 21 Savage says this year is the turning point. It feels like I don't want to be the Houston Steelers. You don't want to be on the Mike Tomlin treadmill. I can understand that. We go SC. This is pretty harsh. Don says, even if we win a title, I hope they get rid of Caley. Maybe he'll get a head coach job. If they win a Super Bowl, you damn sure better not get rid of Nick Caley. If he's able to get that done, nah. We don't hate Nick Caley, do we? But you hate some of his work, but you don't hate Nick Caley to the point where you want him out, right? That's where you're not there, right? I think he does a good job answering questions. There's a little bit of salad here and there, but I think he does an all right job. And that's a penalty. Tequila says Landry's 100% right. We've not met postseason expectations. Making an FC Championship game was the floor. We've exceeded midseason expectations due to bad start. Not good enough. Yeah. Different strokes for different folks. Look, however you want to feel. If you want to feel awesome about it, that's cool. But don't like vibe killer. Like, it's not that awesome. All right, we got a PI there. There we go. Frank says the turning point was the addition of Trent Brown. That's when the win streak began. Yeah, his big ass just goes out there and takes up space. What did he say? Yeah, someone said that he said mass kicks ass. Yeah, I think he needs to ice up. I think Trent Brown needs another week off and get his ass healthy for the playoffs. Guys that need rest in the playoffs, I would say Trent Brown. I would say Kamari Lassiter before the playoffs. And even if it's just like him playing half a game, try to beat the shit out of the Colts to where you're not playing Lassiter. But you ice up Lassiter and Brown. But Brown has made a huge difference. And I'm shocked that he's done his thing. Rob says if we actually make the Super Bowl, every team will try to draft a 6'4" Higgins that will stay healthy for the postseason like us and the Bengals did. Oh, is there another Higgins wide receiver there? I see what you did there. I see what you did there. Evan says past 2 runs, no Petrie, no Dell, no Diggs. I mean, went to the playoffs the last 2 years with a banged up roster. Shouldn't be an excuse. We'll see. It'll be fun. They got a chance. Sean says, I don't know how my guy just separated half the free agency class into a decision independent from the other half. It's just a numbers game, man. I have no idea what you're saying. So I separated the people that they invested the most money in, whether it be trade or whether it be free agency. And those guys didn't pan out this time around. So Christian Kirk, you gave $16 million. And then Laken Tomlinson, you paid. And Cam Robinson, you paid $12 million. And it didn't pan out. So CJ Gardner-Johnson, another $8 million on a trade. So those are your highest investments of the offseason. Your lowest investments are the guys that you kick the tires on. Trent Brown, Jake Andrews, Ed Ingram. That's 3/5 of your offensive line. EJ Speed, basically the salary of a quality backup linebacker. And that's really how you do it. I don't know. Like it's just a numbers game. I don't know. I thought it was kind of self-explanatory, but I'm here to explain. But yes, that's how I did it. USC just settled for a field goal. Damn it. TCU scoring and winning. That's a given, right? Like there's no doubt. I was thinking about this too. Before I get out of here, I don't know that Riley Leonard is really better than Phillip Rivers right now. He's not. He's not a statue. He's got a better arm. They brought him in to throw the Hail Mary. And you really haven't seen a lot of him at the NFL level. Like, I don't like, how much do you really have to game plan for Phillip Rivers and how easy is it to catch him? Like, if you're talking about winning, and I'm not sitting here saying the Texans are going to lose to the Colts, but they did make Daniel Jones go on like a historic stretch the first 6 games of the season. That did happen. So Riley Leonard has some athleticism, some tools. Like, what is that going to look like? I think I don't know that it's going to look good because he is Riley Leonard, but he does possess some physical traits. And they do know how to get the most of guys, it feels like, that have athleticism. I still think the Texans smoke them, but I think it's, at the very least, a little bit more difficult with Riley Leonard out there compared to Phillip Rivers. I don't look at that as a throwing in the towel. Like the Chargers are throwing in the towel by not playing Justin Herbert and anyone else. So they're throwing in the towel. I don't think this is necessarily a true throw in the towel with Riley Leonard. But I could easily see him throwing a few interceptions and looking silly. Appreciate y'all for rolling through. Be sure to subscribe. Be sure to like. Be sure to ride along. Be sure to enjoy this however you see fit. It's gonna be a hell of a ride. It's gonna be a fun ride, and we are all in it together. Download Sleeper, get it done. Use the promo code Locker. We're all in this together. Bye-bye.
Landlocked, got the game in the headlock. Localized every time, can't stop, won't stop. Yeah, we top 2 and we not too. Plugged in daily digital on YouTube. We got taste for days, opinions to give, we got takeaways. If it's up, then it's up, we number 1.